Hello, today we're going to be talking about weapons, just kind of the basic overview of how they work, what they are, what to look at, even a couple of tips for beginners on to what kind of weapons to look for. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with our weapon slots. What are weapon slots? Well, when you open an attack page, you will see that you have a set of items that you can choose from. These are your attack options. Each one is considered a weapon slot. We have our primary. This is going to be big guns like shotguns and rifles. We have our secondary. This can be things like flamethrowers or smaller weapons like pistols. We have a melee weapon, swords, knives, clubbed weapons. We have a temporary. This could be either a damaging grenade like this or a stack grenade that provides a debuff on the opponent. And finally, everyone has access to fists, punching, and after an education you get kicks, and those are pretty weak. The fist is a base damage of 10 and an accuracy of 50, while the kick has a base damage of 30 and an accuracy of 40. And so if we, let's talk about damage next actually. So thinking about damage, if we look at any sort of weapon we have, we can click on this, we can see damage right here, we can see damage here, and if we click on an image, damage right here in the details. Damage is going to be a multiplier to the total output damage. Weapon damage modifies output damage. So if something is 25 damage and another weapon is 50 damage, the weapon that does 50 damage does twice as much damage as the weapon that does 25 damage. So it's just a simple multiplier. Next is accuracy. This determines your hit chance if your speed is equal to your target's defense. So if I were to attack someone with the exact same amount of speed or exact same amount of dexterity as I have speed, with this weapon I'd have a 65% chance to hit before other modifiers. And those are the basic stats of weapons. They do have a few other things going on with them though. They have a stealth factor. So if we go back to this, we can see that there is a stealth right here. Guns are typically not very stealthy. This is a scale of 1 to 10. Well, if we look at some melee weapons here, we'll just pick this butterfly knife right here. We'll see it has a stealth of 8.3. It's much more stealthy. Stealth determines if an attack says someone or if it shows your name at the end of the attack, and we'll talk about the details of stealth a little more, but the big takeaway are the dexterity stat and the stealth score of the weapons used in the fight. The next thing to talk about is reload rate. This isn't a precise stat so much as an idea based on two stats that only guns have. And this is the combination of the fire rate and the ammo capacity. Ammo capacity being right here. So we can see that we use 4 to 5 rounds whenever we attack with this weapon, and we have a magazine capacity of 17. So if we do some rough math, we can expect to use up our ammo in about 5 to 6 turns. Or let's say 4 to 5 turns actually. If it's hitting 5s each time, we'd use 5 ammo, so we'd end up with 12 after the first turn, 7 left after the second turn, 2 left after the third turn, and then on that fourth turn we'd use the last 2 rounds out of the magazine, and then it would need to reload. By having reduced ammo spent, like remainder, like it should have shot 5 but it shot 2, there's no penalty for that. It doesn't affect anything. So even a remainder bullet of 1, when kind of mathing out your ammo, it does full damage. Now, this right here is the magazines, how many times you can reload. Whenever you're doing an attack and you run out of ammo, you have to spend a turn reloading the firearm before you can do attacks with it again. And because of that, the capacity and the fire rate mean you can only do a certain number of attacks, and then you can choose to reload or not. And that can be important in relation to your defense settings, especially because if we look at our defense settings, we can see we can have an option to reload or not. There may be weapons that we want to attack with, let them use up all the ammo, and then not reload, while there may be some weapons that we do want to reload. And then we can update our settings so we can have that. Aside from that, reload rate can affect some perks, and we'll talk about those in a little bit, but the next thing to consider is the other modifiers that weapons can have on them. So if we look at our weapons here, guns can have ammo, and different ammos do different things. So standard ammo you just purchase at the ammo shop right up here, ammo. While the special ammos you get from either doing missions, there's a special stock benefit block that does it, and you can also get it from crimes. There's postal workers, pickpocketing postal workers works, but also shoplifting. Whenever either one of these nodes are down, you can get special ammo, so that's a pretty good source if you're trying to figure out how to source ammo in the beginning of the game. But either way, you can buy standard ammo from this ammo page. You can assign different ammos either through here or just by clicking this right here. And this also works on an attack. I already closed my attack, but wherever the ammo is, you can click through them. Now, the types of ammo, standard is just basic. It works just as you would expect for the gun. The hollow points do less. They do less damage against armored hits, but they do more damage against exposed hits. So they're pretty good for looting NPCs, these guys over here that typically don't have much armor on. Tracers just increase the weapon accuracy by 10, so this 66 weapon becomes a 76. Piercing does more damage against armored, but less damage against unarmored. It's very, very good for people with higher level armor ratings on their equipment. And then finally there's Incendiary. This just gives a straight damage boost. It's pretty good too. I believe it's 40% more damage, so it can be really effective. The next thing to talk about would be the weapon mods. So if we look, we have pips on the right and left of our weapons when we go through them. And we'll see that melee weapons do not have these pips, but remember, guns have all the special ammo. They have to reload, which is kind of the downside to them. But they can also have these weapon mods. So if we look at these, we can see that there are certain things that you unlock through missions, which maybe we can click through and see if we have any on offer. Sure, we have a extended magazine on offer right here. Would increase our magazine capacity by 20% if we equipped a gun with this. And we can buy them with mission credits that we get for doing our missions. And we'll talk about missions and mission credits another time. But for now, just know that you can unlock these weapon mods, and then you can equip up to 2 on each gun that you have equipped. So right here on my Mag 7, I have an adjustable trigger, which increases the accuracy on the first attack, and extra magazine, so I can do reloads if I'm doing a ranked war or something, need to just pump out damage. There's a whole variety of weapon mods. We probably have to do a deep dive to talk about each of them, but they can greatly affect what your guns can do. And because of the weapon mods and special ammo, guns tend to be better than melee after you can source these mods and special ammo. Before that, melee weapons tend to be a little better because even if the stats don't quite match up, and actually this Yazukuni is better than that USP, but the damage is really good. It never has to reload, so your melee weapon is very, very reliable. You want to be able to use it whenever. Now, considering those things, the last thing we need to talk about with weapons is weapon perks. Weapon perks are these passive bonuses or these right pips that some weapons have, and they can have a whole range of different effects and abilities that these weapons have. If you notice, there's kind of this yellowish green kind of background and this orangish background. And if we look at a standard weapon, it doesn't have anything like that. We look at the same weapon, we can see that background. That's showing that this is a weapon with some kind of perk. And these are sourced from ranked wars. When you get the caches from ranked wars, it can be opened up and a random weapon will come out of it based on the type of cache it is. And aside from ranked wars, there's also unique weapon perks. These are weapons that just have a perk on them just for the sake of having a perk on them. Blowgun is one of the first ones that was ever released. And we see here on this pip that it has a chance to poison. This is just a normal blowgun, but we do see it has an effect and it causes damage over time. And it's quite a bit of damage, so even though it has a low base damage, if you're just looking at it, you can see with this effect, it does a lot of damage over time, and it's not too bad to have. Especially if you're in a group attack with other people, because damage over time will hit every single time any person attacks your target. If we want to look at another example, there's flamethrowers. They're also damage over time, a little more aggressive than the blowgun. And then we also have the cattle prod, which we'll talk about a little more in a little bit. As far as the ranked war perks go, going back to those for a minute, I want to talk about some specific perks that would be helpful for new players to be thinking about, or at least what's popular so they know what people are talking about. One of the most popular ones is the debuffs. So there is Wither, Weaken, Slow, and Cripple. And Cripple is less popular for a bunch of reasons, but these are debuffs that will weaken targets, and these debuffs last on the target for 5 minutes, and they can stack. You can see this has a 37% chance to reduce the opponent's strength by 25%. It can stack up to 3 times. Each one lasts 5 minutes. So these debuffs are really popular. Another popular thing is just raw damage. There's perks like Deadeye that increases damage from critical hits. And there are perks like Powerful, which just do increase base damage. If you hear language like that, just think they're probably talking about weapons with these special perks that come from ranked war weapons. Utility perks are something that every player should be expecting or using. These are things that provide a bonus by finishing the hit with them. Right here we can see this P90, and we can see that it has a 16% to restore energy upon final hit. Factions should have these on loan and available for their members to use for attacking. There's Revitalize for getting your energy back. There's Warlord for getting your increased respect on final hit. There's Proficience, which increases experience so players can level up faster. There's Stricken, so your target stays in the hospital for longer. And there's Plunder, which increases the amount of money you get from a mug. And those utility perks are extremely useful. They're generally better to be shared among a faction, though, because usually factions are doing things which benefit from their usage. Maybe not so much Plunder, but the others certainly. Finally, I'd like to just recommend some things, and the first thing is the cattle prod. This is a weapon that does almost no damage if we look at it. Remember, damage is a flat multiplier, so we're only doing 70% more than base damage for the damage calculation compared to all these things. 55 damage, 70 damage, much higher. So this does almost no damage, but it has decent accuracy. It's 60 base accuracy. What makes it so good for new and old players alike is its ability, though. It has starting at 75%, I think it goes up to about 78, 79%. Has a chance to shock the opponent, which causes them to miss their next turn. If you equip this and set it so that your defense are just melee, you can stall out opponents where they will attack you, you will hit them with this and shock them, and then they'll miss their next turn. Once they run out of their 25 attacks for their attack, they will stalemate and the fight will end. So they will have wasted 25 energy to stalemate you because you shock them over and over again. Now, perks like this only work if they both hit and they actually do damage. Since this only modifies damage, it's a check between your strength versus their defense. So if there's a defense pure that can just listen to me. If there's a defense whore that can just tank your hit and mitigate it so it does 0 damage, then you're not going to be able to shock them. But otherwise, you can shock them, stall them out, and they will eventually stalemate. You can also use this for group attacks. If someone needs help in a fight, you can just equip your cattle prod and start jabbing at them. You'll stun them, it'll stop them from attacking the other person, and a group of cattle prods can keep even the strongest players locked up, and we'll talk about group attacks another time. The other thing I would recommend is getting an execute pistol. Our faction tries to keep a handful of them, but if we look at them, the execute perk allows you to immediately kill someone if you do damage to them while they're below a certain threshold of life. So if they have 15% or less life, and you do damage to them with this weapon, then they automatically die. It doesn't matter if you were supposed to do 1 damage or 10,000, whatever it was, it just immediately kills them. If you're a new player, you're starting out in a faction, you want to get involved with the faction, equipping one of these and just doing group attacks so you assist during ranked wars with their pushes and whatever, and you get in a situation where you're helping someone much stronger beat an opponent, just use this pistol. Use something with execute on it. Execute only shows up on pistols, so you'll need to keep an eye out for that. And if anybody's watching that runs a faction or part of faction leadership, propose to your leadership that they source a bunch of these execute pistols. They're not extremely useful. In fact, the value comes in them being low value because they're so useless for general play. They typically sell at BB range, which means that they're cheap to pick up. They're not going to do anything for like advanced play. Like a high level player is not going to use a 15% execute. Once you get into red executes, that's a different topic entirely. But these kind of beginner executes, they're junk, but they can save that beginner player from a fight that they went to assist in. So for that, I value them really highly for new players, and I value the cattle prod really high. Other than that, I would say stick with things with high accuracy. If we look at I'll go to the item market. If we look at the Macana, it has extremely high accuracy. It's a melee weapon. It's really cheap to pick up. I mean, they're 100k, 65 base accuracy. If you're a new player just starting out, just pick up one of these. Actually, just use that until you can afford ranked war weapons. There's no reason to use anything else, honestly. That's about all the information I have for you as far as beginners go. Eventually we'll do a deep dive on this, talk about a lot more of the ranked war perks and other things that can be used, other strategies that weapons provide, and kind of go over some of the things that we only were able to gloss over today. But as far as that goes, I hope this was helpful for any new players out there. I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, I'm trying to create these guides to provide information to players that don't have a good way to learn things, or maybe just having people send text to you doesn't really help you understand compared to being shown and spoken to. I know a lot of people learn better that way, and I really like this community, and I want to kind of promote these things and kind of educate people on things to make a more interesting game for everyone. So if that said, if you do have any questions, just comment, just post them down below. I will try to answer them in text if I can, and maybe you'll provide me with an idea for a video so I can go into more depth and explain it and talk about it. Again, thank you for watching. You have a good day, and I will see you in the next video.